Hey guys, Brian Schoaf here from BombasticEntertainment.com, and today we're going to take a look at building a simple, but more importantly, cheap, professional grade teleprompter. For this build we're going to need a few things. A shadow box, which you can find at just about any craft store, Velcro, some black cloth, dowel rod, or failing that, a pair of chopsticks from your favorite Chinese restaurant, a piece of plywood, and a tablet. Now this next piece is optional but highly recommended. A piece of actual beam split teleprompter glass. At around 55 bucks, it's going to be the most costly piece of the whole build, and while you can get by without it, you will get better reflections and a crisper reproduction of your text if you buy one. If you use the stock glass that came from the shadow box frames, your reflections will be kind of soft, and you can even get ghosting of the text within the reflections, so it's like reflections inside of reflections. So this is an instance where being cheap will just cause you headaches down the road. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that you're working with a piece of actual teleprompter glass. Now there's plenty of sites online that you can buy cut-to-size teleprompter glass, so tracking a piece down shouldn't be a problem. I'm using an 8x10 piece since that's the size of the shadow box I bought. Now first things first, chances are your shadow box came with a nice photo like mine did. Here's this cute looking couple who just look like they're having the most wonderful time, just happy kids. Toss them in the trash. Instantly, it's like some weight is lifted and you'll just feel better about yourself. Now you'll have to remove the piece of glass from what will wind up being the top half of the frame. The way it was built, my shadow box didn't allow for this, so I had to remove mine forcibly. But hey, if you can't be scientific, you can at least be safe about it. So wear goggles and make sure you lay something down under the glass before you break it, so that way you can just kind of clean it up easily. Now that that's out of the way, you can add your teleprompter glass onto the top of the frame, and we're halfway there. Next, cut off a few strips of Velcro from your roll. They sell Velcro with self-adhesive, but I never trust that stuff, so I'm just going to score the edges of my frame and then use my own super glue to hold it down. Once that's set, grab your black cloth, measure out enough to cover the length of the top and the sides of your shadow box. Also make sure to leave it long enough to cover the length of whatever camera you'll be using. Now line up your fabric with your box and lay out the female pieces so they correspond with the male pieces you glued onto the frame. I'm just going to staple them onto the cloth here, but if you're feeling extra fancy, you could sew them on. Take your tablet and navigate to your prompter app of choice. There's plenty of free ones online, so just try them out and see what works best for you. Place your tablet on the bottom half of the prompter frame and get in there and test out those reflections to find an angle that works for you. Once you're happy with how the text looks, measure the dowel, or chopstick, for the length of the frame and then cut off the excess. This will keep the prompter open at the proper angle when you're using it. Next, I put a small dot of plumber's epoxy on the edge of the frame at the top and the bottom just outside the dowel to create a groove. I just happen to use plumber's epoxy, but you can use pretty much anything. A thumbtack, a screw, or a nail would work just the same. This is so our stick prop has something to lock it into place. Without it, it could slide and cause our prompter to unexpectedly slam shut while in use. For the final touch, you need to replace the bottom frame of the shadow box with a piece to mount it onto a tripod. While you could glue or epoxy a bolt onto the piece already in the frame, being that it's just cardstocked, if the prompter took any knocks while it was mounted, I'd be concerned it would just tear off like the paper it is. I had a piece of plywood lying around, so I cut it to size, secured a 1/4 bolt into a block of wood, glued those together, and this thing is just rock solid. To make the new base look a little less DIY-ish, I spray painted it black to match the shadow box, but this step is purely cosmetic, so paint it or don't, it's totally your call. So that said, it's a pretty simple build, and the whole thing cost me less than 70 bucks, and it works great. I've been using it for this whole video, as a matter of fact. Now this build is far from perfect, so if you find a way to improve on the design, I'd love to see what you come up with, so feel free to leave a comment below or hit me up on Twitter, and don't forget to check out BombasticEntertainment.com to see what we're up to. Thanks for watching. Good? I feel like there's a joke about prompting in here, but it just keeps slipping through my fingers.